I'm contacting someone in Midnight Truth to kind of connect them with Mark.
Got it. So where will you all meet?
I think we will meet upper in the plains above.
Okay.
So I will do the paperwork so Mark can get there without any problems, and I think we'll catch Mark a couple of minutes before the representative for the Midnight Truth. I'm hoping for Gregory because he's a nice guy, he's very busy now doing all the revolution. So I think we're probably somewhere really like a cafeteria.
Okay. All right. Well, it's a nicer cafeteria than you are used to, but that doesn't mean that it is, it's not luxury. And I will also it seems to me that Mark is probably wearing some kind of work pants with reflectors on the bottoms of the trousers.
I actually see Mark as always having an overall, because he's a mechanic and everything. So maybe have a jacket with a reflective surface.
Yes, precisely, exactly. So that seems perfect to me. So here you are met with a person whose name is Paolo. And Paolo is happy to meet you. He is much younger he's younger than both of you. He's really young. And so he's saying Gregory is supposed to be here and is not really sure, what to do. Eventually, you do not have cell phones.
No.
Right. So but eventually he is, he tries to communicate. He tries to send a message by somebody else. Finally he gets somebody to send a message of some kind to Gregory. And he says Gregory's busy in some way. I don't know why. I'm really sorry. But you're Mark, right? Nice to meet you.
Hi, Paolo. Paolo, hello.
Paolo.
Well, what we need to know, Mark, is whether you can damage, whether you can make sure that the navigation system cannot be repaired. If we tell you at some time, can you prevent the navigation system from being repaired in some way, especially if you know how to fix it?
I think Mark doesn't know much more about the cult than that the cult exists and everything. So I think he will ask, what are you standing for? What are you working? What are your purpose? I don't really understand.
Paolo is opening his mouth and taking a deep breath with all the things that he is about to tell you. So I don't know if you really want to listen to all of it, but I'm ready.
I will listen, but I'm trying to what can we understand about Paolo just looking at him? Is he a bureaucratic guy or
Yes, his job is bureaucratic. His job is, I think of him as an assistant law clerk. He has to manage all of the different contracts, and he has to keep all the records, and he has to do all the work that the other lawyers should do, but they don't want to. And perhaps this is, if he does a year of this is the beginning position, and then he gets a different kind of rank, and then, so this is your first year out of law school. And so that's his appearance is very very consistent with this. He looks like he doesn't look like he's wearing very expensive or important clothes, but he's very clean. He's very neat, in a way that means he takes a lot of attention to how he presents himself and looks. And yet he is also very excited because he says it's hard to believe, but we are living an enormous lie. The purposes that they tell us, the roles that we play, the facts that they say are truth, are the world we live in, all of these are lies. And once you realize this, that you are never going to succeed in the way that they say. Mark, I'm sure that you want to rise in the ranks and be an authority one day. Of course, he misreads Mark entirely, but but he says, but that will never happen for you. They like you where you are, and you think that the scoop was, everything is fine. That was a lie too. Things break all the time and nothing happens. They don't do anything. The people who work in your position, you're expendable. If you die fixing something or trying to keep something from being damaged, they don't care if it's damaged. That just means they get a break on their taxes next year. If you die trying to fix it out there just outside the hull of the ship, they don't care. You are just another. You are a liability. You know what it says in the papers that I manage? They don't treat you as assets. They don't treat us as assets, as benefits to their needs, to their company. We are expenses. If you die, you just saved them some expense. Do we really want to live like this? What if we demanded the truth all the time? What if we were in a position to control where this ship goes when we go back to Earth, and with what? Don't you think they would have to give up some more of the truth then? Or that people would listen to us then? I think so. This is a chance for you to step up and to be the man that you should be.
But I have a question. I mean, your ideas here, I've heard them. I think they're very interesting and so on. But how come they're not more spread on the lower decks? And you're obviously not from the lower deck.
Mark is slowly putting up a hand for a question mark too, but we can wait with that.
It might be a little while before they notice, yes.
Yeah.
So Paolo says, I don't really have an answer for that. I only know things from, you're right, I can only see things from where I am. I think it's because people are too desperate and too accustomed to having to accept things. But I'm sure that if we disrupt enough, if we show more of the truth, I don't think anybody is stupid, Gerard. I don't think decks mean anything. I think everybody has the intelligence and the desire to be more in charge of their lives.
Yeah.
He is not saying anything about space babies or anything like that.
Mark's the hand up.
There's the hand. Okay.
can Mark? Mark is waiting for for him to say yes, Mark.
He looks at your hand for a minute, and then he looks at you and says, "Go ahead, go ahead."
How are you supposed to shave this this control of this? How are you supposed to shave? Make them speak the truth. I don't
By controlling the ship and where it goes.
How are you going to take? Are you going to take over the ship, and how are you going to take over the ship?
Well, it's not really like taking over a ship. There's not like the ship doesn't have a brain. It doesn't have a person steering it like a car. What matters is simply controlling the navigation. And Gerard is perfectly placed. He is our method. He is our means. We trust him to achieve control of the navigation systems. You are our backup. That if you can damage the systems so that they cannot be turned away from what we want.
And where actually is that? I know that I'm supposed to be briefed about that later, but this destination that that is coming back. Is it? Do you know?
Well, that's why I want Gregory here, because Gregory is in the leaders of the Midnight Truth, and they all have different ideas, but they always come to an agreement. And so Gregory, of course, could tell you what the agreement is like right now about where we go. Exactly. I support the idea that we simply go back to Earth. But I know that different people in the Midnight Truth have different ideas. But we are very democratic, you see. We will decide according to the will of the people, their representatives. And the more people we include in that process, the better.
Mark will say, not to be insulting, Pablo, but just because you have a democracy doesn't mean that it is democratic for everybody. I would really like to meet this Gregory to understand more of where we're going and everything. I don't believe in just knowing half the story. Why are we going and how are we going there? And I want to meet Gregory.
Okay. Well, Paolo says, I'm not keeping him from you. He's supposed to be here. And he's getting really nervous. He doesn't want to lose these valuable contributors to the Midnight Truth just because he didn't have all of the information or isn't skilled in convincing people. He's looking very upset and alone. And he says, I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you. I'm not trying to keep anything from you.
No, I'm not. I'm much more. I'm not as Mark. I think this is for the best to join these guys, because I mean, you see how they treat us. You see the way he describes it. I mean, it at least fits in the way. Fits to my picture of how we've been treated historically, and we have to see some kind of change in this. We want to move towards. I mean, I guess it depends on which means are. I mean, how are you planning to do this? Will there be a kind of revolution where heads will roll, or is it actually just I cannot see that just
The ship
changing
the ship doesn't really have a government. It just has employees.
Yeah.
It just has administrators.
Mm.
And so if you make it go a certain way, most of the people will just go ahead and do it anyway. They weren't controlling it in the first place. They aren't controlling it now. That's the most important thing. Most of the people, even if they don't agree with us entirely, they really will just keep doing the job that they have.